So in this video, this is about my Halloweens. I want to add some information that is definitely necessary to understand. I did a video, go back to that one, that's still plenty true and plenty informative, but there's a detail to keep in mind. Until I moved to Chelmsford, this was true, by the way, too. Every Halloween I would get sick. Now you're probably thinking by that statement, oh well, you ate too much candy or something like that. That's not what I mean. Only people who try to twist things would try to make that assumption. People who were there or discussed it with me would know that that's not the case. Because I felt bad because I wasn't allowed to go out and get candy because I was sick. So the day before Halloween, I'd be all happy, looking forward to the day, perking up, whatever. Can't wait to get candy. My mother would tell me no candy until you go trick or treating, and after Halloween, blah blah blah. You'll get two a night, one a night, whatever. So I would have to wait till Halloween to have any significant amount of candy. So every year I would wait the night of, I'd have a costume all made up. My mother or father would go out and buy this costume. I'd look forward to going out and filling up a whole bag of candy. But every year, until I was probably in Chelmsford at the age of 12 or 13, before that, every year, right before we would go out trick-or-treating that same day, this would be at nighttime, it's time to go out, maybe between the hours of 3 p.m. and 7 p.m. I would be fine in the morning, but now it's time to get ready to go trick-or-treating, go out and get a bag full of candy. Every single time, I would get deadly sick right before I went out, and I wasn't eating any candy. There was zero candy involved. But here's something that is interesting. I was rude to my mother one night, and I got sick promptly after that. My mother told me I would only be able to have 2 pieces a night when I come back home. I told her, yeah, that's probably not going to happen. In other words, I'm a child, but I'm basically trying to be honest with her about, I don't think that's going to work. I should have more candy than that. All the other kids get to eat all their candy. And then I got promptly sick before even getting out there to get the candy. I would never go and get the candy. Every other kid would have these big bags of candy, and I would have zero because I got sick before I could go out and get it. So I had to go without my trick-or-treating. I had to go without candy because some weird flu or some weird sickness would come every year right as Halloween was there, right as I'm supposed to be going out trick-or-treating, right as I'm supposed to go out and get candy. I would get sick to my stomach, vomit, flu-like symptoms, and then my mother would baby me and kind of do whatever she wanted. One time in Maine, we took a walk, and somebody gave me some mint sticks because there was no place to trick-or-treat. I was sick, so I couldn't go out with any other people that were visiting, like my nephew. There was another time when my nephew came over, and I got deadly sick. I wasn't allowed to go out and trick-or-treat. There was another time where I got sick on Halloween. I was by myself, and I wasn't allowed to go out and trick-or-treat. This was a very common occurrence every year on Halloween, and I even do tell people, I don't know why, but I get sick before I get any candy. Why don't you have candy, Zach? Oh, because I caught some weird flu again. I didn't even get to go and have candy every Halloween while everybody else was gorging themselves on chocolate and getting sick from overeating candy. I was getting sick from something much different because I wasn't allowed to have candy. There was no candy involved with my sickness. And I think that my mother might have had a lot involved with that. And she just figured, well, everybody will figure it was something else. It's Halloween, kids get sick from candy, nobody will figure out this. But see, I can tell you honestly that when I got sick, and my father should remember this, but he probably won't admit to it, or he probably won't even try to remember this, there was no candy involved. This is right before I was able to go out trick-or-treating or anything like that. This would be in Westford, Texas, all those type of places. This is in Maine. This is before I was even able to go out trick-or-treating like in Chelmsford. At the age of like 13, I got to go with a neighbor and actually experience my first real trick-or-treat, going out and getting a bag full of candy. But every year before that, I would get deadly ill, pale, vomit, get very sick before I could go get any candy. And then I would have to miss out on the candy. I would have no candy while all the other kids had candy. And when they asked me why I had no candy, it was because I wasn't able to go trick-or-treating. Why weren't you able to go trick-or-treating, Zach? Because I got sick. Why'd you get sick? Nobody knows. It's a mystery. I did not eat any candy, though. That's the problem. I should have been. I should have been getting sick on candy. But instead, something else was going on. And I will never know what that something else was. All I'll know for facts is that there was no candy involved. I was not allowed to go trick-or-treating. I was not allowed to have any candy. But yet I still got ridiculously sick. And the symptoms are vomiting, paleness, sweatiness, extreme nausea, even some headaches. There were some headaches, not on every single time, but there was one of them where I experienced headaches as well. This is problematic, as well as it would always start at a later time in the day, right as we're gearing up to go out trick-or-treating. It would hit me maybe an hour or so before it's time to go out. And this was almost like it was planned every year. It's a weird coincidence to get a weird flu an hour or two before you go out for trick-or-treating many years in a row. That is very weird and unusual, especially that there was no candy involved. That there was no candy, that's part of the problem. I wasn't able to have any candy because I never went out and trick-or-treated to get the candy, as well as my parents had strict rules about how much candy I could eat if they went out and bought it. And what's even weirder is I talked back to my mother and told her, well, all the other kids get to eat their candy, so I want to eat it too, not just 2 pieces a night. And she would have left me 2 Tootsie Rolls, and she would have been eating it in the back, I guarantee you, too. She probably would have been snacking on more than I was even eating. But I didn't get to do any of that. None of that even came into play, because something used to happen hours before I was supposed to go trick-or-treating. And this is important to think about when you think about what I'm talking about in these videos. There was weird and unusual times where I got very sick and there was lots of pills and medications involved. And there was even a time where I had a bad reaction that I know is an overdose, but my mother called a allergic reaction that had very suspicious details that went along with it. And there are things that I'll never be able to know, but I can talk about the facts that I do know and try to figure out exactly what that means with a doctor or medical professional or somebody that can explain to me what these facts could mean. And it's very unusual that this wasn't looked into after all these years of weird illnesses, weird times getting sick. I mean, I must have got this weird flu or gotten sick 100 times. I mean, this is very weird. As well as my white blood count dropped on a medicine one time. Lithium, I was considered a zombie. I was having hangovers, all different types of horrible side effects like suicidal thoughts and depression. And honestly, I just want to live, but I'm in so much pain. I've had to live through so much traumatic events that if I am crippled, living in the woods, about to freeze to death, of course I'm going to feel suicidal. Anybody would. If you're in the middle of the woods, it's 0 degrees, you're stuck in the middle woods and you're not able to walk or move, and you're shaking and seizing all night, and that goes on for days. Yeah, you're not going to exactly want to live that life. So that is something you got to keep in account of when I was in my 20s or 19 to 20s. But as a child, these suicidal thoughts and these depression that was being reported came right after medications. And as a child, I didn't know any of what this meant. I didn't know that downers make you down and then when they wear off you go up. I just agreed with my mother and I just went along with what she said until I became a teenager and started to realize what she was saying and what she was asking me was wrong. No, I am not schizophrenic. I should not blindly repeat what you're saying. No, giving another child medication is absolutely wrong. And I was able to look at these behaviors and identify they were wrong for myself. And that's why I love my father so much, even though he is really trying to kind of not listen to me or really try to understand what was going on in his own household. I still have a whole lot of love for him because what he was trying to teach me were good lessons. He still was giving back, he was still trying to do positive in my life. While somebody else was trying to do some negative things and maybe had some stuff that she had to handle, and now I'll have to live in pain for the rest of my life because of somebody else's decisions, as well as my life will be cut short no matter what I do, thanks to somebody else's decisions. And I'm going to suffer greatly because of somebody else's decisions, as well as I got my own decisions to make based upon somebody else's decisions. And I have my own mistakes to pay for, and I have to pay for those ones because of my decisions, but now I also have to pay for somebody else's decisions on top of that. That's not great. And I have all these PTSD memories that are clear as day, and it all means something for sure. And now that I'm older, I know what it means. I'm not stupid. When you take this information and you put it together, it makes a very clear picture of what was going on. If you take the disability, the Halloweens, the Epicac, you take the OD at age 7, you take all the pushing of medications, you have the way she administered medications, you have the way she spoke to doctors, you have the way that she ended up twisting words and leaving out context, you have the way that she blamed me for her own drinking in front of a witness, you have the irresponsible use of Social Security and reporting of Social Security, irresponsible reporting of Social Security. You have all this put together. It definitely paints a picture of what was going on and what was being done to me. Now, my father was being lied to. I don't believe he was in on it. I don't believe he knew what my mother was doing. I think that he stayed away from my medical care, and he means that. I think that he just kind of took a blind eye to what his wife was doing because he didn't want to deal with that. It could be an embarrassment. It could, be a terrible thing, so it's better just to turn a blind eye to what she was doing to me. But he did give me a lot of good advice, and he did do a lot of good. So I've already forgiven him, and my mother has already passed away, so I've had to forgive her past tense. But that's no reason for me to get improper medical care and never be able to get the truth out there. No. I should always be speaking the truth. I should always be moving forward in the right direction. I should always look out for others in the same way I would want them to look out for me. And seeing as this could happen to other people, it's really important that I tell my story and get the information out there, because there's other orphans out there who could get caught up in a broken system. There's a broken medical care. I mean, there's so many broken systems in America that to get caught up in. It's important that people realize that there are dangers in things that you say, things that you do, and trying to make your kid out to be disabled has consequences. I see these younger parents in their 30s trying to make their 10-year-old daughters and 5-year-old sons out to be these horrible disabled people, but they're using light. Like, this is different situation than me. There's no drugs involved. I mean, everybody's different, but that still has consequences. Just even trying to push the limits or exaggerate the Social Security, even that has consequences. Maybe not as severe on the body as I have, but it still has consequences. Lying about your child or pushing a narrative is never the right thing to do. Making up stories, pushing a narrative, trying to lie or make negative statements about your son is a pretty evil thing to do, and you really need to look at yourself, and I think that you got to ask God for forgiveness if that's what you're doing.